Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Freedom First podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening, watching the podcast right now, please like and subscribe, leave a rating, a comment. We really appreciate it. I'm super excited for this episode. We got to sit down and have a conversation with someone I know very well, someone I went to school with, and we got to sit down and talk about her story, her journey. She just finished writing a book called Unveiling Alice, which is telling her story, her journey, and struggles. And on the front of the book, it says, you have a decision to make. You can either own your story or let it own you. And I love the message of owning it, owning who you are, owning the struggles that you go through. And we got to sit down and talk about those struggles. We got to talk about the book and the process of writing the book, and also share dating advice and share, relationship advice as well. So amazing book. I'm not much of a romance type of reader, but I sat down and just went right through this book. So get it. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Unveiling Alice again. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Mary Crocker to the podcast. All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you guys for tuning in. And today we have an amazing guest on, Miss Mary Crocker, and I'm excited to jump into her new book that just released and kind of get to know more about her and her story. So welcome to the show, Mary. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It looks great in here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So on the Freedom First podcast, we have a little segment called the Freedom Minute. It's just some rapid fire questions to kind of get us into the flow of things, kind of break the ice, and we'll have some fun with them. So the first one is, who was your celebrity crush growing up?
Oh, that's easy. Zac Efron. I would have dated that wildcat right away.
And when was the first time? Was it the show? What was the show called?
It was a movie. It was High School Musical. The first time that aired, yes, I wanted to date Zac Efron. Troy Bolton, I guess, was his character. Yeah. So yeah.
I know you love. You've been different places, love to travel and whatnot. What's your dream travel destination?
Ooh, Greece for sure. I want to go live like my Mamma Mia moment and be on a boat and just kind of experiencing life there. I could go by myself. I could go with friends, but definitely Greece. It looks beautiful there. That's
amazing. One non-negotiable quality you look for in a guy or partner?
Oh man, non-negotiable.
It's a must.
Oh gosh, respect. I think, I have to be respected, and they have to especially respect my family, friends, strangers too. Yeah, that's important.
Family, especially when you have brothers, right?
Oh yeah. Especially have to respect my 3 older brothers for sure.
Yeah. Biggest turnoff on a first date?
Ooh, that one's easy for me. If the guy is too touchy on a first date, I need someone who's like a little bit nervous, not intimidated, but just like they're not trying to make a move within like the first 10 minutes. Like, I think that's pretty sweet or endearing when a guy is like, nervous to like hold my hand or something. But if a guy is way too touchy, that's absolute no for me.
Got it. There you go, guys. Listen up. This is a question I ask every guest. I'm always intrigued to hear, the response here. But if you could sit down and have a conversation with anyone throughout history, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Oh man, I was just talking with my boss today about history, and he was telling me how he knew like all the presidents and the order and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just am horrible at history. Ooh, I don't know. Let me think about that. Can I come back to that one?
Yeah, we can come back to it.
Okay.
That was kind of the last one, but
oh, sorry. No, it's so sorry. We'll come back. We'll come back.
We could get to that later.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for answering those questions, Mary. And I'm really excited to just bring you on the podcast today. We went to school together, and
yes,
I've gotten to kind of see and follow you, your life and all the success you've had, and kind of owning your story. That's what intrigues me, and it fits with what we do on this podcast. Is own it. I love that, that never quit mindset, and, owning your story and just embracing it, right? So I want to kind of jump into, maybe those that don't know who you are, where did you grow up at? What was kind of your childhood like growing up? And
Yes. So I grew up here in Porterville, California, and I'm the fifth of six kids. So very much grew up in a big family in our small little town. So I think that really it's shaped so much of who I am. I've always just felt super supported, and my family and I are just still super close. We talk all the time. We're in this massive family group text, and so I'm just so thankful for that. But yeah, so that was my childhood. And I mean, I realized grew up down the road from where you guys are at. So out here, a little outside of, city limits, which I think is also pretty fun, out in the country, not really in a cul-de-sac or anything. But yeah, my childhood, I was just always on the go, super active. And so were all my siblings, and we were just a family that just loved spending time together. And I think another thing big about my childhood too is I've just always loved school. So I just got to visit with my kindergarten teacher this past weekend, which was really fun. And we were reminiscing on when I was in kindergarten. I used to walk in every day, and I would swing the door open, and I would scream out hallelujah because I was just so excited to be at school. And then that obviously shaped, I never missed a day of school from kindergarten through high school. Grew up with both parents in education. And so yeah, learning and growing and just being surrounded by good friends has always been super important to me. And I think that's really shaped who I am now. So
yeah, I remember you were very, involved in athletics, and I know you were involved in, student council and kind of that whole student life of things. So I do remember that. What sports did you play? I forget now, but.
Yes. So I did water polo, soccer, and swimming throughout high school. Yeah.
So now, and I know you've been doing different marathons, or you're training for a marathon, half marathons, and you love running. So yeah, it's cool to kind of see that continue going.
Yeah. No, it has. And running was such a big part of my healing journey. And we could talk about that with the book in a little bit too. But yeah, no, I just last year ran a marathon. It had actually been canceled from COVID. So I just had my dad kind of chasing me around in his car, making sure that I didn't pass out or anything. But yeah, I ran the marathon by myself, which was pretty crazy. But I did run it in Santa Barbara, California, next to the beach. So when you're running in beach weather, it's not so bad. Yeah. But yeah, so now this year I'm already kind of starting to train for a half marathon, which is pretty fun. But both my parents are super active still. And even when I come home, I wake up early and run with my mom and her friends. So it's kind of in our blood, but it's a way to just, spend time with my family too, which is really nice.
Absolutely. And so you do have plans to run a half marathon, you said, or?
Yes. Yeah. I have one that I'm running in May with my aunt, who she had actually bought that package, part of the pre-order. There's a Run with Alice package. Yeah. And she purchased it. So that means that she got to pick a race, and I am joining it with her. And it's actually in Boise, Idaho. So that'll be fun.
That's awesome. So now that you mentioned that, I did have a question before we jump into the book. Yeah. So Alice, was that inspired from your grandmother?
It is. Okay. Yes. So that's my grandmother's name, and it's also my middle name. Okay. So, yep.
Nice. So did you kind of when did that kind of come about? You were going to name the main character?
I don't know if there's an exact moment. I think, I don't know. I think it just kind of fit. I knew I didn't want to obviously do my name because it was going to be written in fiction, but I wanted it to be something that was still close to me, that throughout the years that I could look back on. And I didn't want it to just be a random name. And I don't know. I think for me, it was just it was that perfect tie that was close to myself, close to my grandma, someone who I really admire. So it just felt like the right fit. And it just clicked as soon as I was yep, I'm going to do Alice. I was yeah, that's right. So,
yeah, no, it feels right. It definitely feels right. So let's kind of, I want to kind of jump into the story. So the first thing I kind of had, and I wanted to kind of get into is the true story of Unveiling Alice. Jump right into it. In a brief sense, I know it's a long story, and it'll, we could stay here for hours and hours and hours, but
we could.
What's kind of the true story, I guess? Because I know the book is written in fiction, obviously, and in a little bit we'll kind of get into one of the questions I had, which is, what was the kind of inspiration for what you chose as being fiction, and what was what you wanted to input as being, obviously nonfiction. But what's the kind of true story, the real story that you're comfortable with sharing?
Yeah. What's the tea? What's the gossip here? So the year was 2020. Everyone will remember that year from here on out. I started off 2020 in a pretty spectacular way. I got engaged about a year before the world shut down. Knew I wanted a short engagement, as did my fiance. So we had about 5 months to plan amidst a pandemic, which was just, I could grieve and mourn that process itself before we even get to the breakup. But a day before what should have been our wedding, my fiance called it off in a very public and sudden way. And I was really left in a position to kind of fend for myself, pick myself back up. Granted, I had all the family and friend support that a girl could ever need and more. But the person that I was planning on spending my future with just wasn't there. So my future was really kind of stripped of me. I was living in a different state at the time. So I was away from family. So I was really put in a position where my life took a really unexpected turn. And that's kind of what led to the idea of having to decide to own my story, because it was either I could just live in this realm of being a victim and taking everybody's pity and just using that as an excuse when things didn't go right, or I could move on from it. And I wanted to be on the other side of it. So.
Right. And I think one of the, going through the entire book, and one of the things I noticed was that you just mentioned was family, right? Mm-hmm. That seems like one of the things that is not only, obviously it's a fictional book, but it's a real thing for you and your family. The support you see in the book and the support you see in your own life, right, in the real story. So that was the one thing that, keeps coming back, whether it was your parents or your brothers. I really just appreciated that and love that about the whole story, whether in the fictional actually book or the real story.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could not have, completed this book without my family. I mean, I just wouldn't have been where I was a day after the breakup, weeks after the breakup, to this day after the breakup. I just did a book event this past Saturday, and my whole family came in for it. And that meant like driving up here and giving up their time. I mean, they are just so supportive. So yeah, I owe so much to them. And like I said at the beginning, like they've just helped shape who I am. So.
Right. And I mean, like your parents, like in the book, and I'm assuming the beginning of the book is pretty real.
Yeah.
Real, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when they literally drop everything to come pick you up from the airport and, end up going back to Colorado, at the drop of a hat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was very real. But, gosh, it's funny because from my perspective, that was so hard putting my parents through that. And I felt that guilt for such a long time. Like, that weekend we should have been celebrating my wedding, and now everybody was back here to like help me get through something so hard. And I definitely wasn't ready to talk about it at the time. But they've also been there to celebrate me through the highs. So yeah, but my mom she has just said that like, that's been the biggest gift for her as a parent, that in that moment when I was at my lowest, that my safe place, my comfort place was home. Yeah. Truly, I could probably go back and find the text message, but all I said was, so-and-so called off the wedding. I'm coming home and I need you at the airport at this time. There was I didn't send a long text, no explanation. And within like a couple minutes, my mom just said, we'll be there. And and then they didn't call. I think they could tell like I was probably pretty overwhelmed, and I had just a few hours to gather my stuff or what I could gather and get to the airport on time. So yeah, I mean, I think that's been, it's changed my relationship with my parents too, which has just been so special. So
right, yeah, mothers, right, and just family and parents in general.
Yeah,
it's really amazing to see, and I just like you kept coming back to that throughout the story, which really made me realize how important family is to you. So, going into the story, obviously you decided to write a fictional story. Some of the events were obviously nonfiction, fiction. What was kind of when you sat down? What did you like know you wanted to put down as being that real story, but also kind of intertwining that fictional character? Were there things like that's too personal, I'm definitely going to leave this out? How did that kind of process work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Um, it was a difficult process. I will say that there is a lot that I still left out of it. Cause I'm still one very like protective of the person who was also involved in this, as well as protective of myself, because I've also learned since releasing this book that once you kind of are vulnerable and you put yourself out there, that people almost like feel the right to start asking a lot of like deeper questions. And I'm like, okay, so it was good that I had to have some boundaries for myself and knowing like that's going to be something that I'm going to carry throughout the rest of my life. So, also knowing it impacts my reputation, and I'm part of, the company that I work for, and it's reflective of my family and my friends and even my future family and future spouse. So I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't just getting lost in the moment, that I was also thinking about my future. And I wanted something that was timeless too, that I could look back on and really be proud of. But I think when it came to deciding the events, it was one, I needed to tell a story that was engaging. So I picked some obviously big events and part of the breakup that would keep readers, turning the page. But when people ask me like what's real and what's not, what I tell them is Alice's emotions are real. So everything that you are experiencing through the lens of Alice is very raw, real emotion. And I think I'll leave it at that. And then the rest I'll kind of keep as author secrets. But I think that's the biggest thing. I really wanted readers to be connected with Alice, whether they've experienced something traumatic or if they've watched someone go through something traumatic. I wanted them to be able to build that empathy with her. So,
yeah, you did a great job of that. The emotional aspect that kind of draws the reader in. I'll be honest, like with like romance stuff, like I don't know if I've ever read a romance novel.
First time for everything.
And I was like, obviously I'm going to support and buy the book, but you don't know. But I started reading. I think I ended up reading the whole book in like 3 or 4 hours. Like just quick, and like next thing you know, I'm done with it. Right. So it's definitely a page turner, and the emotions are you connect with the book. You connect with Alice, the main character. Absolutely.
Oh, good.
So no, but I'll be honest with you. So anyone listening, if you're kind of skeptical, I don't read, the romance type books. I was the same way. But this one, I picked it up and just went right through it. So I don't know, maybe I'll have to read some more books and
I know.
And maybe wait till you come out with your next one. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a very girly cover too. So I know I tell people like, well, you can get the Kindle version. You can kind of hide behind the cover. It's pink and everything. But no, I think that there's a lot of emotions in there. And I think you can even, whether it's you're kind of learning things from Alice or the other supporting characters, or even seeing like how my dad is in it or my brothers, like there's a lot of, there's still a lot of masculine energy too.
Yeah, absolutely. So. just the mindset of like, a brother, like being, because obviously I have a younger sister, and like I could totally connect with that. Like if somebody hurt my sister, like I would be feeling that same thing. Like you read through like the your dad or your brother being like pissed off or whatever. Like I was like, yeah, like I'm pissed off too when I'm reading. Like I'm feeling those emotions. So like you did a wonderful job. So just setting the plot up, absolutely. So great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mary. Great job. So a couple other questions I have about the specific book, and kind of still on the topic of truth and not true. There's a couple events that kind of stick out. You ran into your friend at the airport. Is that, and you don't have to share that, but
no, I will share that. That is true.
That is true.
And her name is Holly. That is a very real moment. So that airport scene, I'll go ahead and share, is very real. Me, trying to get through the airport, completely still in my work clothes, like bags are just overpacked. I'm lost. I'm sweating. Oh my gosh. It was just like the worst. I travel quite a bit, and I have like my airport outfits down to a T, and I was not prepared for that at all. And I walked up and I recognized her outfit, and I was like, I've seen that outfit. And I got a little bit closer, and she has a little mini golden doodle too. And I saw the mini golden doodle on her lap. I was like, oh my goodness, that's Holly. And she was actually, while I was going through college, she was kind of like another like mother figure to me. We worked together at anthropology. So all of that was really real. And I just walked up and I saw her, and she was like, aren't you getting married? And I was like, No. So I will say she didn't ask as many questions as she did in the book.
Yeah.
It was very quick that I just broke down and started crying. So we had to build that up a little bit for the readers. But yeah, that was, oh my gosh. I mean, that was the most God moment I've ever had in my life, was having her on that flight.
Yeah.
And she also had like travel issues that day. Like they never stop in Denver. They were coming back from Idaho. And she was like, we always stop in Vegas. And we had this super long layover here. And we're just frustrated and trying to get home. We didn't land till, gosh, like right before midnight. So it was not a good travel day for them either. So I do just think God just sent me like an angel that day. And she is like, if you know her and you've met her, you just know like that is the most perfect person to like run into in this moment. Just truly the most perfect person. And I'm so thankful I had her on that flight. I truly just think that was like one of those like catalyst moments that like helped me kind of, just get to where I need to be. So,
Yeah, that was a question I had. I just like, wow, like if this is true, like this is amazing. Right?
I've still never run into anybody at the airport or anything since or before that.
You never run into people in the airport.
No.
Like,
No.
No, that's a question I had to ask. I just like, if this is real, like this is like meant to be.
Yeah.
Right? This is like, sent from God himself. So
truly.
No, I'm interested to hear a couple other things, but how have you kind of grown from this experience? Obviously in the aftermath, you kind of feel the emotions from the story and from the main character Alice, but how have you grown from this experience? And what was kind of the most difficult part in the aftermath of, kind of having to pick yourself back up and eventually own your story?
Yeah. Gosh, I think it's probably the same answer for both. The way I've grown the most and the hardest thing is just learning that I cannot control other people, that I can truly only control myself. And things are constantly going to happen in life, big or small, that I had no control over, I didn't have a decision in, that are just like completely out of my hands. And I can only control my response. And I think our attitude, our mindset is so big, it's so powerful. And this has obviously been a big example of that. And that is not to say that there aren't still hard days. Like there are hard days where I'm like, no, I got to do it. I got to push through this. And that doesn't mean I'm not like, struggling in my car, taking my deep breaths before I go into work or something. So I think it's kind of that same answer for both, is just learning that. I've also learned that closure is not something that people owe us. You're never always going to get an apology to, but that we are all kind of strong enough to find that on our own. I do firmly believe like closure comes from within. And I think too, like my faith is like really important to me. It's just a foundation for my life and just, my outlook and how I, view things. But you are capable, I think, of forgiving people without, forgetting. I know it sounds like cheesy and cliche, but like I'm never going to forget that this happened. And it's always going to have an impact on me. It's going to have an impact on whoever I end up with too in the future, and probably even my kids and how I talk to them about relationships. But it is possible to forgive someone, but it's hard work. It is very hard work, and it's a lot of self-reflection too. Big part in owning your story, and I think that's sometimes the work that people don't want to do. But I truly believe it's really freeing in the long run. So,
right, and like you kind of touched on it just briefly, but like how did this experience that you went through like change your perception on how you look at things from a personal, professional, and a relationship standpoint?
Yeah. I'll be honest, it's been really challenging. I think when something like this happens and I was so blindsided by it, I think my first thing was I just lived really in a realm of like shame and guilt, and was really embarrassed. And I think, and that's why I'm probably still very protective of this person, because I come back to like, well, I picked that person. And so you're struggling in this realm of like, can I even trust myself? Like that is still a journey that I'm on. I still have a lot of moments where I'm like, am I making the right decision? Am I not? So I think that's probably been the biggest impact in it that I've had to really work through. But it's also on a positive note. It's shown me that, I can take a bad thing and turn it into something good. I'm also super supported and super loved. And I have like the strongest community surrounded around me. And so, yeah, there's both, I guess hopefully that answers that on both like a positive and negative, different impacts. So
Absolutely. And I think just reading the book and knowing you, you like through the story, like you said, the person in the book, that broke your heart, that did all this, you would never really talk bad about him.
Mm-mm.
Right?
No.
And I think no matter whether it's in your situation or any situation, that shows really true character of someone. Obviously being brothers and these people that are protective over you, like that's infuriating. But at the same time, like you have, and I know that's true, and that's one of those true emotions in the book, that you would never go down to that level. Like it shows a lot about who you are as a person.
Oh, well, thank you. I was just talking with a friend about it today, and she actually pointed out, she's like, I do appreciate that you don't ever kind of badmouth him, and you are real and like, well, I still love him. I still care about him. And I do. And I think that's a part of, like, if you're going to forgive someone, you have to truly forgive them. You can't just say it. And if you get to the end of the book, this will make sense. But I do really hope that, like, he is in a place that, he's working on himself. And if I were to bash him, like that one doesn't look good on me, but it also doesn't put him in a good position that, like if I firmly believe that, like, if you're going to forgive someone, you have to fully forgive them. You can't keep holding it over their head. Like, you have to just let it go. And so that was, something I just kept coming back to.
Yeah. And it's so hard to do that, right? It's so easy to go like bash somebody, whether it's in a relationship or somebody that did you wrong or did you dirty. But man, when people take the high road, you see it. And I see this in you, and I see this in the book, and that's special.
Yeah. I mean, I think, holding on to that grudge, anger is, that's the easier thing to do. But I think, like, in the long run, it's just so damaging. I think, at the beginning, fighting to get to that place of forgiveness and taking the high road, it is really hard at the beginning. I won't lie. And there are still difficult days, but I do think it's just, in the long run, so much more freeing and rewarding.
Right. So, getting into the actual book, after your experience, like, how long did it take? What was the inspiration and the idea that kind of came to fruition in writing the book? How did this idea all come together?
Yeah. I mean, so when you go through something difficult, so many people are like, you need to start journaling and kind of, documenting things, and just, I don't know. Also, I mean, on an entertaining, like a less heavy way. I mean, like, the story itself is kind of crazy. Like, it's something that, I mean, when I was going through it, there were so many moments I was like, you hear about like breakups like this happening on a TV show or in a movie. It's
like a Hallmark movie,
True. Yeah. Gosh, it's even more intense than a Hallmark movie. I've watched all the Hallmark movies there are, but no, it's entertaining in a way. Like, there were so many moments too, like when I was in that moment of sadness or anger, that I just also would, like, something would happen and I just would like have this like ridiculous laugh, because like, this can't be real. Like, what is going on? And I think some of those moments to me were a little bit of like, this is something worth telling, because this is crazy what is going on. And I had a friend who went through the program that I went through, and they help first-time authors, and she was about to get her book published. And I was like, I've always wanted to write a book. I've like felt it in my bones. It's always been like something on a bucket list, goal sheets, vision boards, you name it. I just didn't know what I would write about, but I definitely wanted to write something that would help people. And I kind of always thought in my head that that'd be like a nonfiction self-help book. And then life kind of gave me a story worth writing. And so once I started, putting pen to paper, or fingers to my laptop, I guess is probably the best way to put it, because I did not write it. I definitely typed it. I just couldn't stop. So it just became a no-brainer. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was something I had wondered. I know, being in school and going to school with you, like, what was it always something you wanted to do? But it sounds like it was. And it finally, like, something was, a story that unfortunately, I guess, was kind of put into your lap. And it, like you said, you wanted maybe to write a nonfiction self-help book. This is little bit of both, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, and that was, when I sat down with my editors at the beginning, I said, like, this is a very personal story. And so, I'm going to be probably protective of myself. So I'm going to need to be challenged in that way too. So I also told them, there's going to be moments I'm probably not going to want to share something and you're going to want me to share. So let's find that medium ground of, what are my boundaries, and let's see where we can kind of push that, not push that. But I also was like, I want to make sure that it's received in a good way too. So, I think setting those intentions for it also made it really easy for both myself and the editors to kind of navigate.
So where did the, we kind of discussed the book is, being based around a true story, and obviously, a fictional book. What was that process of, sitting down? Did you have kind of like a sweet spot or a special place you were writing? What was kind of the whole process of, sitting down, writing, and then taking it to the, editor? Like, what was the process you took, I guess I should say?
Yes. So I definitely had a routine. So I work remotely. And at the time I was just working out of my apartment. So my apartment was really just kind of like for my job, my Monday through Friday. And I never wrote Monday through Friday. I really protected my weekends for writing, and I always went and wrote in a coffee shop. So I was kind of surrounded by people, outside of my like comfort zone too, back at my apartment. So it forced me to write, forced me to, I don't know, maybe just open up a little bit more and just be inspired by people who are coming in and out, and then helped inspire the coffee shop a little bit. Right. So you need that. You need to go like live life. And, living in Nashville, they talk about like with songwriters, like if you don't have anything to write about, like go experience something, like go out there. So that was really important to me. But I also, in the same way, like for athletes, like you have to warm up your body. Like there's definitely days, like even as a runner, like I'm just not, I'm not in the mood. But if I warm up, if I like get a good playlist going, if I drink my electrolytes and have a good meal the night before, like I'm conditioning and preparing my body and getting ready for it. So kind of in that same way on my weekends, I would like get up and go for a run. I would, and you see it in the book too, but like I would totally like put on a good playlist. I would dance in my room, dance in front of the mirror. So embarrassing, but I definitely did that.
That's awesome.
And I would get, I'd get dressed up and I would feel good about myself. And then I'd go to the coffee shop, find my spot, very much how Alice does in the book too. I like to pick my spot. I'm very particular about that. And I would just get cozy and I'd hunker down for 4 to 5 hours and just write. And then it was a lot of back and forth with my developmental editor for the first manuscript. And she was super helpful, just helping me get from a beginning to end and having it make sense and just talking through a lot of ideas. And then my next editor was the one that was she was tough as nails. But she was good. She made me a better writer. So that was kind of the process.
Yeah. I love the writing process because like everyone's got something a little different. I mean, you go back and you look at Hemingway and Stephen King. I mean, some of them would go sit down in a loud bar and go write. Some would, like I think Stephen King was, would write different places, but he would kind of be by himself, up in his room, and just the process. Have you read Stephen King on writing?
No.
On the craft?
No.
I read it about I don't know, it's been a year ago, but a really incredible book. And it's about like his story. It sounds boring, but about on writing, but it's about his story and why he does what he does and his inspiration for, Carrie or, It or all these different stories. And I thought it was really incredible and kind of, it just kind of reminds me of different writers and different people and why they do what they do and their inspiration and their kind of happy places, right?
Yeah. So
I wanted to kind of see what's Mary's happy place.
Yeah, and mine is definitely mine's definitely in a coffee shop wearing my booties, all dressed up in Nashville. But no, I think that's a really interesting piece because it's true. I mean, when you're writing and you're building out these characters, it's not just like, oh, I just imagine this like, this guy who just comes in and saves the day. They're like, no, when you think about that character, because so much of how you're going to build out that character, how they respond to things, like everything about us shapes our personality. So like, what does this person smell like? What are their hobbies? If they have like 2 hours free on a Sunday afternoon, like how are they spending it? Are they an only sibling or an only child? Sorry. Do they have siblings? Are they the youngest? Are they the oldest? Like, are their parents still together? Are they divorced? Like all those different things shape how we respond to stuff. So you kind of have to really get into detail when thinking about and building out the characters and the storyline. So that's why I think it's good to like, have those places that allow you to be creative.
I know I do, like, just not even in writing, but like just in whatever, but like those aha moments, like when you were like sitting in the coffee shop, did you have like those aha moments, like, oh, like that fits, or like you've seen, like maybe you were kind of, you had that, what do they call it, like the writer's block or something, and you're like something like you've seen someone in the coffee shop, or like you're like, oh, like it sparked a memory or something like that, kind of helped you get going again?
You know, I didn't have it as much in the writing, like in the coffee shops, excuse me. When I was in the coffee shops, I was really like, all right, I'd give myself like, you need to get this chapter done, or you need to get a certain word count done. You have a deadline to meet. I would get those aha moments more so when I was running. So I have so many notes in my phone, and I still do. Just ideas come to me while I'm running. And so I had them more on runs than I did sitting in the coffee shop. Okay. Coffee shop was like, it was like my workout. Like I had like warmed up and I get to the coffee shop. That's my workout. But the aha moments came, different times.
Yeah. I think mine are like in the gym. I'll be like working out and then like all of a sudden like open my Apple Notes, like filled up.
Yeah, my notes don't make sense. There's a Target list, a Trader Joe's list. There's like books that I want to read, and then there's like random book ideas, character ideas, notes of text messages you need to send to people, and like all this different stuff. So
I'm so dumb. Like sometimes I'll come back and like, dang, like what does that even mean? Like,
trying
to figure out like decode something, like what was I thinking?
100%. And I like that you can now lock notes. My phone is like I'm so private with my phone. It's because I just feel like everything is so out in the open, but my phone is like my private space. I like keeping things to myself there, but I even like lock my notes a lot of times. So
that's the secret menu, that's the good stuff. So who have been some of your biggest inspirations that kind of have inspired you to write? Do you have any of those people, like friends, other authors?
Yeah, definitely. So when I saw Holly on that flight, she was somebody who really like told me like, hey, the next day it's going to be hard, but I think she just was like, you have this like, Mary spirit and you need to keep that up. And so she was like, it's going to be hard tomorrow, but like try to get outside and go for a walk, even if it's just for a mile. Maybe you do a couple like work emails, like take time for yourself, but also like, don't dwell too much. Like don't lose who you are. Like these are things that like you are someone who likes to stay active and stay busy. And she told me a lot to journal and things like that. So my mom is also an incredible writer. So I leaned on her a lot for things throughout the process. But I think the biggest thing is, I don't know, I really do draw a lot of inspiration from people in my life and just watching them go through adversity and how they've overcome it. So in writing specifically, I don't know if I have anyone in particular. I think more so just how I built out the characters. And I think getting through the process is where, lots of my family really inspired me for that.
Well, I'm sure you have plans, like obviously writing the first book and maybe even doing some more stuff, I would imagine. But what are some things you kind of learned through the writing process the first time you would maybe kind of change, maybe for the next book, or change next time?
Yeah, good question. I think it's a pretty fast and easy read. So I think I would maybe want to make it a little bit longer, build out some characters a little bit more. I think this one was hard because I think those first couple chapters, just self-reflecting, and this is a big thing with my second editor, the breakup is like ongoing, and so many things are unfolding. You're like, okay, is it just going to be a book about a breakup? Like, is there ever going to be a turn of events? Right. So I think I don't know, I would have liked to condense that a little bit more. And so, but that's probably where my personal feelings got a little bit in the way for that. But I think I would just like to build out some of the characters a little bit more, some of the scenes. And I think on the other side of that, marketing for it, I think I would have just started that a little bit sooner. Because I feel like I'm kind of like a one-man show over here marketing myself. So building your brand and everything has been just really tough. And I think that's something I probably would have put a little bit more time and effort into sooner.
That's probably probably the toughest thing, whether it's like starting a business or a book or anything, like the marketing, because it takes so much time.
So much time. I mean, I look at it, I'm like, at the company I work at now, we have like a team of 20 or so who works all within marketing to do one thing. And I'm like, I'm just one person trying to do it. And it's yeah, you have to be confident, but it's uncomfortable to like pitch yourself to people a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think probably, I mean, like I would imagine our families are probably similar in that way. Like I grew up like my dad he had this saying and it says, he said, don't ever blow your own horn. If you're really that good, someone else will do it for you. So like don't ever talk about yourself. I remember like always.
That's good.
And I would imagine like just being a humble, like small town, like that's how it was. That's how we grew up, and kind of sounds the same for you. So it's always weird. Like I'm like, who? Like
I know. We do need to be better about it. So I know this past Friday when I had the chance to go speak at our old high school, Monachi, and in one of the classes at the end of kind of my little spiel to the students, I had them write down 2 to 3 things that they like or love about themselves that they would never sacrifice. They would never sacrifice and give up in a relationship, for a job, like anything. And they all just kind of sat there and they started looking up and looking around. And the teacher did such a great job. She like chimed in right away. She's like, would it be easier if I asked you to make a list of things you didn't like about yourselves? And all the students said, yeah, that would be so much easier. She's like, exactly. Like we need to work on this and love ourselves and know our self-worth, which is so, so true. And you see that kind of character development in Unveiling Alice too, that she's like trying to find that again as well, because it was lost. And so it's okay to blow your own horn is what I'm saying. That is such great advice. It's so true that like, it's almost, if you have to tell people you're funny, like, are you funny? Right. So that's good.
No, I 100% agree, because it is hard. Like I've done the same thing for kids, and like we would, I remember at the beginning of the year, we would do like these New Year's resolution things, and it's like, what do you want to leave behind in 2021 or whatever?
Yeah.
And we did it with, did a little like Kobe, when Kobe had passed away. We did a thing. It's like we had wrote it on a paper, something you want to throw away, and they crumbled it up, and like we did the whole the Kobe thing, and
oh wow.
But it's hard. It's easy to do that, but it's really hard to like, what am I good at? Because we're so critical. Like
we are.
Successful people are very critical of themselves, but you have to find a balance, I think.
Oh yeah.
Or try to, at least. We kind of briefly touched on it earlier, and I love the little stickers, own it stickers, and just owning your story. I love that. And I think that's definitely a great marketing tool that I don't know if you thought about. Like, you could
I haven't had the time to dive into it.
I love that idea, and just the power of owning your story, and I think why others should too. This could apply to relationship wise or business or anything, right? Like this is a big concept, and I love how you kind of created this story around it. Own it. Yeah. Own it. Like what are some things, obviously with a story, but what are some things you would kind of tell people about like own your story that are maybe listening to this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like when this first happened, I just felt like it was like tattooed across my forehead. And when you're going through that airport scene, I think in my head, I was like, everybody knows I just went through a breakup. Like that has to be their first thought. And nobody knows that. Like, I think people are they're curious. They're empathetic. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what that feels like walking through here and, crying and feeling all these things. And I was so in my head about it that I just like couldn't focus on other things. And I think you just kind of have to accept those things that like you can't change, those decisions that other people made, things out of your control, because otherwise like it will take a hold of your life. Like if you spend your whole life holding on to those grudges or just the things that have happened that there's nothing you could do to change it, you're never going to be able to move forward, and you're never going to be able to see a new future. And I knew I was like, I'm going to have to get through this. I want to forgive this person, and I'm going to want obviously a different future, and I need a new beginning. And in order to do that, I really had to be able to move away from that past. And that kind of meant just accepting what happened and owning it. It was really hard for me to talk about it with people at first. And so this was kind of that way of, finding my closure, saying my goodbye. And there were lots of nerves and anxiety in releasing this book. I think even, before this past month when it was officially published, even when I did like the pre-order sale and I had to put together that video. I mean, there were so many times I just kept re-recording. And it's terrifying being vulnerable like that. But I have just found since releasing it that like that vulnerability has just breeded more vulnerability, and it's given a space for more people to just feel comfortable to share their story. And I just think people need to share their voice and, you know, create that space for others. And so I guess that was kind of the big thing. I didn't want it to be something that controlled the rest of my life. I wanted to be able to trust people again one day and, you know, have the future that I want. And so I think, that's kind of what, I don't know, inspired it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, since you've released a book, it's, you know, so many people posting it and going on podcasts and whatnot, and people really embracing the book. Did you have a fear? Because I do this all the time, but did you have a fear that I'm going to release this and no one's going to read it? Like,
100%. I truly felt that way. I still feel that way. I'm like, oh my gosh, do people really like it? Do they not? I mean, and that's again, just being, hard on ourselves and
hypercritical.
Oh, totally. But I mean, I don't know. I've learned it so many times that like you can be, and I think the expression is, you can be like the juiciest peach and people still aren't going to like you. Like, I'm not the person for everybody. I'm not always going to be liked. My goodness, like how many times have we learned that throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, college, even now as an adult, like in my career, like I'm not meant for everybody, but that's also because like not everybody is meant for me. Like there've been plenty of people that I've met that I'm like, you're just not someone I think I want in my life all the time. And that's totally fine. And I think we should make decisions like that and set those boundaries. But there is definitely that fear. And I'm sure there are people who have read it and have opinions on it. And that's okay. I have read lots of books that I don't like. But the matter of fact is that I still get through it and I still read it. And and sometimes getting that, you know, critique and different perspectives is good as well, because iron sharpens iron. So the feedback is always good.
Yeah, I love that. You know, like I love the thing you said, you know, that not everyone's going to be for you and you're not going to be for everyone, right? And that's okay, because at the end of the day, like we have our own path, and those people that they're either helping us get somewhere or they're not. And sometimes you got to kind of unhitch that trailer, and like there's people that are like, it's not that you think you're better than anyone or anything like that. It's just we have different goals. We have different purposes. So, you know, I love that aspect of it. And talking about kind of, you mentioned it, like relationship advice and, you know, maybe trusting, I would imagine like
little
elephant
tough
in the room. Yeah. But like just to trust the aspect, and that's, I mean, I don't know if that ever comes fully. I think we're always kind of working towards some kind of goal with that. But what are some pieces of relationship advice you've kind of learned along the way you would maybe tell someone listening to this podcast, whether maybe they're in high school, maybe, you know, they're going through a breakup, or they're maybe in a situation, you know, similar to yours, and things aren't working out?
Yeah. I think I'll first start with anyone like looking to get into a relationship, and at least what has now changed and shifted for me. I used to have this like list, you know, I've had plenty of relationships. I have always been boy crazy. I'll probably always be boy crazy. That's just who I am. But I've always had kind of this list of like, this person needs to check all these boxes. And so when I met this person, they checked all of them. I was like, this is it. This is my person. And obviously like fell in love with them for many other reasons besides what was on that list. But then that put so much pressure on that person. That person was on a pedestal, and in my eyes, they could do no wrong, which in reality, we all change, and I'm going to let people down and people are going to let me down too. But I was so focused and lost in them that I lost myself. And so I think the biggest thing that I've now kind of shifted is like, how do I feel, you know, if I go on a date now, like, do I feel like I can be myself? Do I feel respected? Do I feel supported? Is this person engaged in the conversation? Are they asking me questions? Like, it's become so much less about them and more about me. 'Cause I think we do have to take care of ourselves. Like, we can't be a good partner if we're not taking care of ourselves. Like, if we aren't taking care of our like mental and emotional well-being, like we're not going to be present in a relationship and be good to another person. So that's kind of my biggest piece now. And I carry that now so much, even when I go on dates with people, I'm just like, if I'm sitting there and I kind of leave the date, like there have been times I've left and been like, I feel like I just put on a facade for 2 hours. Like that wasn't even really me. I mean, it was fine and the reality is like I could talk to a wall, like I'm a talker and,
Right.
I work in sales. And so, yeah, I could talk to anything. So that's been the biggest thing is just really making sure that I'm protecting my true self and being authentic. And then I guess to anybody going through anything, I don't know. I don't know. I think I would just want to give them a hug. I just I feel it. I think I feel that fear of one, not being able to trust other people, but especially like not being able to trust yourself. And that's so hard. I don't have a perfect remedy for it yet, but one big thing I've learned is probably to trust my gut a little bit more. And also give the space, for people in your life to, I think, be vocal if they need to be, and just have good people in your corner. Cause I think people will share things if they notice anything too. So yeah.
Yeah, like the trust your gut, right? Because I mean, going on dates or whatever it is, I mean, pretty quickly you kind of realize like if this is not like you said, not that it's a bad date or bad night or, sometimes maybe even become mutual friends or whatever, but it's like, it's probably not the one. But
yeah,
I like that. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Future plans. What, like, obviously you just released the first book and you're still obviously just marketing it.
Yeah.
Looking forward, not too much, but looking forward a little bit, would you like to write another book? Are you like, what's...
Yeah. No, I definitely want to keep writing. I loved this process, and I know you kind of joked about Hallmark earlier, but like that would be the dream to write for Hallmark. I love the idea of, something kind of going wrong at the beginning and lifting up this underdog who not so much only like finds their person, but I think really finds themselves and who like where they're meant to be. So no, I mean, I've started getting some ideas down, and even over like winter break, started a couple chapters on something. I think whatever I do, right, will have to kind of be drawn from like some sort of inspiration in my life. So whether that's, a dating story, a trip that I've gone on, or work stuff, I have no idea. But I think that's probably like the easiest inspiration to draw from to get pen to paper going. So yeah, I hope to continue writing. My boss jokes I'm not allowed to leave my company until I sell 1 million copies. But no, that's definitely the goal. It's been so fulfilling. So
yeah. What do you enjoy most about the writing process?
Oh, I don't know. I think building the characters, and getting to kind of envision this like other world. I loved like the ending of my book, and just like I just felt that as I was writing it. Like I just felt those hugs at the end. I felt that, like I don't want to give anything away to anybody listening, but I truly felt that as I was writing it at the end, those last like 2 to 3 chapters. And I don't know, like I love becoming one with the characters, and it's you just like kind of get lost in this other world. It's so much fun. And the idea of like knowing that you're creating something that other people are going to get to enjoy and, be able to consume and be entertained by. That's a lot of fun too.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, this book is for anyone. So don't be deceived by the pink cover.
Yeah.
There's all types of different people in the book. So
yeah,
it was a really fun read. And
good.
I think I read it one time through, and I kind of pieced back through it a couple different times to kind of go back to some chapters, but incredible. So a couple things. Where can people follow you both personally? Where can they see your work? Where can I find that book at?
Yes. So you can find the book on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And it's Unveiling Alice. And my name is Mary Crocker. So my Instagram is just at Mary Crocker. Thankfully, that's Crocker, just like Betty. So it's pretty easy. I post a lot on TikTok too, and that's just Mary Crocker 5. And then coming soon will be an author website, which will hopefully kind of have some more material through there, and hopefully like future merchandise and everything. But like I said, baby steps to get there. But right now, just Instagram at Mary Crocker.
Yeah, I love I think you got to run with that own idea.
Yeah, and all things pink. We'll find some ways for it to appeal to people who don't love pink, guy or girl. But we can do some black and white stuff. But I'm such a pink girl. It makes sense. I actually like held that book up to the walls in my childhood bedroom while I'm here for the week, and it's like the walls of my bedroom aren't that pink. It's kind of obnoxious.
Like that throwback type.
Yeah,
Thing, like the fit that.
Yeah.
I could see like Cadillac, 50s, 60s Cadillac, the pink, like the Elvis, like
Yeah,
pink
for
Cadillac.
sure.
Um, we talked about the book briefly, but on a personal, professional level, what are some goals you have moving forward? What are some things you kind of looking forward to coming up?
Yeah. I think, I really love, so outside of writing, I work in tech and I'm a sales training manager and I get to onboard our new hires. And I absolutely love that because I just get to build relationships and really, I'm in kind of this realm of teaching just so much like my family, just in a different sense. I'm not teaching like students K through 12, I'm teaching adults, but I absolutely love it. And then getting to watch them go off and, crush their quotas. And I just love my coworkers. So I don't know. I think my goal is to just, keep growing in that realm. But just continuing to help people. I think that's like what I always come back to when I'm setting my goals at work too. And, thinking about future books. And this book is that I do just want to continue to inspire people and, leave my mark and an impact wherever I go. So that's kind of at the heart of it all. But other than that, I just, keep writing and just keep working at my job.
Right. And I mean, we've jumped in bits and pieces of this, but what are some kind of last bits and pieces you would leave someone with to just achieve success, whether they want to be a writer or they want to go into business or be an educator, whatever that is? What are some little things you've learned along the way that have kind of helped you achieve success?
Yeah. Consistency. It's in the same way, like people talk about that with like working out and all that. Same thing with writing or in any sort of creative realm. If you're, pursuing a podcast or music or anything, you have to be consistent. Consistency is the biggest thing. Make time for it too. Like schedule those blocks in your calendar, write it down, tell people that you're going to do it so they also hold you accountable. I think I would also just look at the people you have closest to you. Are they there for you through your lows, and are they also going to celebrate you through your highs? I think when something like this happens, you think you'd have people who just like jump on and want to be in your corner, but I also think that they're probably people who are going to want to watch you fail or aren't going to really lift you up when you have your moment of success. So make sure you have those good people surrounding you for both those moments. And then just be true to yourself. If it doesn't feel right, like let it go, and that's okay.
Right. Trust your gut, right?
Trust your gut. Yes.
Last segment. This is kind of a segment we ask every guest, but it's called the Freedom Fighter of the Week. And this is someone that's been inspirational in your life. They've really been that person. It could be more than one person, so don't feel you have to focus on one person. But because I know that's hard, but someone that's helped you get to where you are today.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I could list so many people. I think I'm going to take this one to shout out my best friend, Devin Meredith. She is just someone who, you see her in the book too as a character, but she really just lets me be me and has been so supportive. But she's also, currently working full time and going back to school to pursue her master's. And, she just still is able to care and love for people in like such a genuine and intentional way, even when she has so much on her plate. And that just inspires me, how she is just able to care for people when, she has a million things on her to-do list. And that selflessness has just really stood out to me lately. And I think that's just something that I'm trying to work on too. Like my plate is full, just as full as hers. And I just watch her still love and care for people in such a special way. So I'm gonna say that she's my main one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of put you on the spot here real quick. For someone listening that maybe hasn't read the story, sell the book. What would you tell them?
My gosh.
Why should they read it? Why should they read it? Why should they buy it?
Oh man, I know. I think at the beginning, a lot of people,
if they've made it this far in this podcast, then
I know. Well, at first I think I was like, a lot of people I think are getting it from Portugal because I think they just want to know what happened. They're just curious. It just like lost a lot of photos on Instagram from my ex and like, what went down? Yeah. Sell the book. One, the cover I think is adorable. So it's just going to look great on, a coffee table or on a bookshelf. It's fabulous. I love all the colors. I love the art. And that's good. I'm very much like, I like having books on display as part of decor in my own apartment. But I think too, it's entertaining. It's a fast read. Lots of people who have read it, like haven't been big readers and they're like, oh, this like I couldn't put it down. So you will stay engaged. It's fun. It's juicy. I don't know. I think it is inspiring. I think it's for anybody who, guy, girl, who has gone through a breakup, who hasn't. You're going to know people who have gone through a breakup. So I don't know. I just think you're going to be able to relate to it in some way, shape, or form. And so I don't know. I think that'll be my biggest thing. It'll get you back into running, and it'll get you into reading too.
There's a lot of
running in it. I think people overlook the running shoes on the cover.
I know. Definitely. It connects with different types of people. I love the different emotional aspects in it. It kind of keeps drawing the reader in. You have so many different plot twists in it that kind of keep you engaged and keep you kind of thinking a little bit. So did a wonderful job, Mary.
I know. Really, I have to ask before you got to the end. I mean, were you at first, are you Team Jax or Team Wes?
I don't know. What do most people say? I don't know.
I think most people, when they start off, they're Team Jax, but obviously it ends differently. But that's usually how it kind of starts
most
off.
are Team Jax. Yeah, I would. I don't know. I would probably lean that way a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not say. Yeah, I didn't really think about 100%, but yeah, probably. A little bit, yeah.
You're like, we're just all Team Alice, so it doesn't matter.
No, definitely. I appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're busy schedule, and you're in town, so it's an absolute honor, privilege to have you on.
Yes, no, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. Like I said, anybody listening, if you aren't watching the video and you're just listening, this studio is really cool. And I'm just like so impressed by all the equipment that's here. I wouldn't even know where to begin with starting a podcast. And thanks for having me. This is so much fun. I mean, someone that I went to school with, and look where we are now. We were just talking about before the show, our 10-year high school reunion coming up. So that's pretty crazy. But thank you so much for thinking of me and bringing me on.
Yeah, I hope people could gain some inspiration from your story. Hopefully they buy the book and read it. 100% recommend. Like I said before, I'm not really into romance, and I'm into romance, but not into
reading romance.
Reading the romance and stuff like that. But this book, highly recommend it, and I would, I couldn't put it down. Read it in 3 or 4 hours, and it was just really, really awesome. So thanks,
appreciate
Mary.
it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.